Hello. Sorry, I got an email at the same time I'm chiming in on here. Give it 2 seconds. I wanted to come on. Tonight we are going to be talking about when Dad didn't leave, but he was forced out. Tonight is Healing Tuesday. I'm excited about doing these consistently for you guys. And we're going to see how this conversation goes tonight, because I know many of you are super anxious about it. I know it even came up last week when we were finishing up our conversation, which was an awesome conversation. I want to thank everybody who joined in, everybody who tuned in, everybody who got on last week as we talked about, what was the topic last week? I've had so many Facebook Lives in between that one. Last week, Healing Tuesday. Oh, we were talking about fatherlessness. We were talking about the fatherlessness piece and healing your father wound. And some individuals chimed in and said, well, what about, and it was at the very end, what about when a dad didn't leave and he was just put out? And I was like, we can't cover it all in 1 hour, but I promise you, these are just moments where topics can be, had the next time. And so just to introduce myself, I am Dr. Torri J. Evans-Barton. I am the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. I know it's late. Some of you are getting ready for bed. Some of you are putting the kids in bed, whatever it is you're doing. Hopefully, those of you who cannot watch during the live broadcast, you will watch during replay. Just so I know, just go ahead and put replay in the comment section. I am kind of excited about this conversation tonight. I don't know how it's going to go. I haven't, I guess I haven't put myself in the mode of what it's going to look like from your end, because I know there are different perspectives all over social media concerning, hold on, let me put this on. Tune in now. Put this on my social media pages. I want you guys to be as honest as you possibly need to be tonight. Couple of things I want to avoid. I know we're going to talk about court. I know that conversation is going to come up a few times about the courts making money, the courts being who they are. But I want to keep it personal tonight. I want to keep it about us, about our role, about how we've conducted ourselves, meaning, as the question that I posed earlier, how do you heal when your dad didn't leave, but he was forced out? And as a child, you don't know that. And that's what I need dads to understand on here. Dads, your children do not know that you didn't leave on purpose. They don't know. And that's the part you have to adjust to. That's the part you have to understand, because you're on the other end shouting, I'm here. I want to be there, but they don't want me there. One of the things that I think is super important is understanding they only have their perspective to go off of, and whether that's correct or incorrect, I need for us to kind of accept that that's where they are. And as we accept that that's where they are, we'll bring them in closer, not from the place of, oh, but you just don't know the other side of the story, and kind of having to push and force that upon them. I'm not saying that you don't tell them the truth, but just for tonight's sake, I want us to just accept where they are. The book that I wrote a little while ago, and it's a really quick read. Trust me when I say I wrote this book, I want to call it more of a pamphlet sometimes, because it's really a self-help, a healing guide. In that regard, it is not a thick book to read. The reason I wrote this book is simply because I wanted children to know why it's super important for them to reunite with their fathers. And so the book is called Why Should I Reunite with My Absent Father? Because that's how it's perceived from the child's perspective. Why should I'm the child. Why should I have to go through this when they didn't want me, or they weren't interested in me in the first place? I can tell you, that's not the position of dads. But that's the position of the children. The children ask that question all the time. Why should I reunite with a father who left me, who didn't want me, who didn't love me enough to fight for me? That's what they're saying all the time. And they're saying it to themselves because that's the narrative, whether they were told that narrative or whether that was the narrative that was fed to them. I don't think we want to dissect all of those different pieces on here tonight. So I'm trying to kind of lay out some of the ground rules, in a sense, the rules of engagement. False allegations we'll deal with another night. Parental alienation, I'm sure we'll tap into it to some degree tonight. As I'm talking about the book that I wrote for the children to heal and reunite, the other book that I wrote for dads, and some dads got offended. I need y'all to calm down a bit. Daddy, where are you? Because children, once again, they don't know where you are. They don't know that you've been fighting to be a part of their lives. They don't know that until hopefully they've sat down with you, they've talked with you, and they've had a chance to really get to know you as a human being. And then you divulge this information to them, not before that. Because if they don't get a chance to know you, they don't care where you've been. They want to just give you the business, and they just want to let you know from the get-go, I'm not pleased with what you've done to me. And it becomes an onslaught of just badgering each other and going back and forth, and it's a never-ending cycle. And so those are the two topics I want to focus on. And I'm going to really kind of pull from these two books, not to get you to purchase them. If you want to, that's on you. If you don't, I'm okay with that as well. But I think they have valuable information. They have valuable information. Some of the information that I want to share with you is my own information. My journey of reunification was not easy, but I think it was easier than most. Because what do you do, once again, when dad didn't leave, but he was forced out? Yep, that's a good one, Charles. It's always hard to consider the other person's perspective. The important part about my journey is I made a decision for me. It had nothing to do with my mother. It had nothing to do with my father. Because a lot of times, especially in conversations like tonight, we're dealing with adults. We're dealing with a lot of adult children who have fatherless issues, who have what I call daddy issues. And so when you're dealing with a lot of adult children who have daddy issues, you then find yourself almost in a whirlwind, because you're like, oh, I don't know how well this is going to go, simply because they have their own perception of what happened. And it's hard to talk an adult down from their perception. There are some dads I don't think you should reunite with, just to be honest with you. There are some I'm like, I don't know, because I think they have behavioral disorders or personality disorders. I think they are narcissistic. I think they have drug addictions, and they're abusive. Those are the parents that I'm kind of like, I'm not really sure. Some people will always say to me, oh, every father leaves. Men who aren't in the children's lives, they left. So as I'm dealing with this first part, so for the first 15 to 20 minutes, let's deal with the children's perspective. Let's deal with the fact that the children, all they know is they don't have a dad at home. They don't necessarily know why you left. They just know you're not present. And you not being present is detrimental to them. It bothers them. It's a struggle. So then they begin to play in their minds, well, why did he leave? Did I do something wrong? Hey, Amaka, how are you? Did I do something wrong? Am I not lovable? Am I not worthy of a dad? And then we carry all of this stuff into our adult lives, questioning our worth and our value and our ability to be loved. And so let's go there. So let's deal with the child. And let's deal with the child at an early age, when they have been either told you weren't present and you weren't going to be present, or they just recognized that you weren't there, and so they came to their own conclusions. And most of the time, whether you guys know it or not, children tend to come to their own conclusions, which is dumb. Because even when we do that in our adult lives, it's like, oh, I didn't have all the information, right? I'm not calling the children dumb. I'm just saying to come to your own conclusion without anybody else's input. It's a dumb thing to do. And then you not only come to your own conclusion, you never ask questions. And so you walk into your adult life believing that this person left you, they didn't want you, they didn't love you, and you weren't necessary, or whatever that situation may be. I remember when I decided to step out and ask my mother some of the scariest questions of my life. I was trembling when I wrote the letter. I was scared out of my mind by the time we're on the phone. So let's deal with that. For most children in their adolescence or adults, fear is the initial barrier. Number one, fear is your initial barrier that's going to stop you from getting the resolve and the healing that you need, whether your dad walked out or whether he was forced out. You won't know the answer to those questions because fear is the very thing that's stopping you. Fear is the very thing that's hindering you from getting clarity and information that you need in order to make the decision that you need to make. But as a child, you come to these conclusions and these decisions on your own without any clarity because, number one, you're not going to ask your mother that question. And I remember, and if you do, let me give you an example. LeBron James he has this show on HBO. And on the show, I want to say one of the very first shows that he did was with Drake and his co-producer. And they were in a barbershop and they were talking about fatherlessness. And in the midst of talking about fatherlessness, they asked LeBron James towards the end of the show, what about your dad? You know, you've kind of leaned, the one producer friend said, you kind of leaned on my dad for the things that you needed. And so what, have you ever asked your mom about this? LeBron says, yeah, one time. Asked her one time and she got smart with me and was like, I got this. LeBron James has only asked his mother one time in his entire life what happened to his dad. If LeBron James can't ask, I know many of you won't be able to ask either because of your fear. And then your fear turns into, I see Brian says fear turns into anger. Before it ever gets to anger, I don't even know if LeBron has even been in a place of anger. Well, probably has, but we just didn't see it. But your fear turns into this empathy and this compassion for your single mom who stayed and fought and worked hard and did all these things to take care of everybody in the household. And so your compassion and your empathy for your mother overrides your desire to ask her any more questions because now you feel sorry for her. And so you don't want to put her through any more devastation, any more pain to get to the root of who you are and why you are who you are. And so fear is the first thing. And the second thing that steps in when you think about it, or you've jumped out and you decided to override your fear. Now it's a place of, Mama said, I got this. Mama said, who are you talking to, little boy? Why are you asking me about him? He's not here. I've heard a lot of that said. So now we have compassion. I won't even call it compassion. I won't call it compassion. You feel, let me back up because I need to be very, very clear. Compassion is a great thing to have for a parent, but to be emotionally responsible for your parents' feelings or to feel responsible for your parents' emotions is a horrible thing to have to ride out for the rest of your lives. And boys feel that way more than girls most times. Boys feel that because they become what? The man of the house. I'm taking care of mom and my little sister and my little brother. And now I've got this because dad didn't get it. I want you to have compassion for your parents. I don't want you to have pity. And I don't want you to have empathy in a way that overrides what it is you need. And I don't want you to feel emotionally responsible for your parent, your non-custodial parent. Most times that's a father who's the non-custodial parent. So you feel the need to protect and be responsible for the parent who stayed, and you protect their emotions. And how you protect their emotions is, I'm not going to ruffle and rattle any feathers by asking those questions. Hey, Yolanda. And I think the honest to God truth is, when you feel responsible for your mother's emotions, then what you've done is you've suppressed your own. And in suppressing your own, when people ask you, well, where's your dad? Or do you feel like you need your dad? No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm well. I'm fine. And you're not. It was important for me to talk to my mother because there was something burning on the inside of me that needed to deal with me. There was something so urgent. It was like a now that I needed to know the answer now. I couldn't wait any later. It was right now. I did write a letter, and it had to come all the way from London, England to her. So it was kind of like snail mail. So it wasn't as now as I'm making it sound. But for me, in writing the letter and sending it off, that was a now. That was a now. So I didn't know when she was going to get it. And by the time she received it, we would have a conversation about it. But because I didn't know when that was going to be, I anxiously awaited her to get it. It was not the easiest conversation to have because there were other factors that came out during that conversation that I think were embarrassing to my mother. So once again, now you're feeling emotionally responsible for your parent, which is it's not the job of the child. If you notice, sometimes when I'm sharing my story, and the older I get and the more I share, I walk on eggshells at times about it. Because even right now, this very second, my mama feels some kind of way about me sharing this story. And it's not always easy because she feels some kind of way, and it causes tremendous strain on our relationship. It causes a lot of different things. And so as the child who then became responsible for my mother's emotions, I still get pulled in that direction from time to time. Whether my dad left or was forced out. And that happens to every child, whether dad left or was forced out. I want to talk to you quickly because time is going to go by pretty fast here. I won't go through my reunification process and how I went through and all of that. What I want to talk to you about is, how do you heal the holes and the voids? How do you heal the time that was lost as a fatherless child? How do you heal that? I personally believe you heal that by walking through the darkest, deepest places of your brokenness. That's what I believe. There are times when I'm talking to fatherless adults, and you guys, when I ask you about your fatherless journey, there's a growl that comes from you. There's a place of, why should I reunite with him? Why do you think that's necessary? I'm fine without him. And my answer to you is, really? Are you? Because everything about your tone, everything about your body language says that you're not okay without him. And no matter how much we tell ourselves we're fine and we're good, our heart will always speak our truth, because out of the depths of our heart, our mouth speaks. And not only does our mouth speak, but our tone speaks. And our broken heart has the ability to spill out of our mouth even when we're not expecting it. It overflows into our careers. It overflows into our relationships with our friends and our romantic ones. We talked about this concerning the father wound the other day or last week. And we have to be conscious of the fact that whether dad left on purpose or he was forced out, our journey, unfortunately, is the same, whether he's left or he was forced out, because we don't know the difference. And that's what I need you to understand. I've had this conversation in DC recently where I had to let dads know, because they're like, well, what are the statistics around children who, our children, ours, because we're alienated? And I have to let you know, the statistics are the same as if a child never met their father. And I think there are times when I say they're the same in the sense of teenage pregnancy, dropouts, drug abuse, or whatever. But I think they're elevated simply because they know you and they know you're out there and they don't know why you're not there. So let me read some of these. This is a long one and I like that. Brian said, I rebelled as a teenager, and boy, did I. I only heard one side, and it was never pretty. Never heard the other side. To this day, in my 40s, she still hates him. My dad died after, to the point oh, wow, your dad died after, and to the point you faced jail time. I never got to ask, but I learned to take responsibility for myself and to see the yin and the yang. And most importantly, to be the parent my dad wasn't. I'm pro se, and Lord, I'm creating so many waves. A gag order is in the horizon. Now my anger is being used to fight for what's right and for peace. I want peace. Prepare for war. That's your story. Okay. So Brian is able to be honest about the fact that he went through a traumatic and tumultuous time. And that created a lot of different scenarios for him. And now he's experiencing the same type of behavior or alienation or denied access that his own father experienced. And that's the thing that I really want to wrap into tonight as well. I said it a little bit last week, but I need to hone in on it. That there are studies that have been done that 50% out of this study, those who had been alienated as children were now alienated as adults. It is a curse. It is a cycle that exists within our homes. It's almost like we have to go through it in order to see, right, what our parents went through, in order to see what Brian's dad might have been going through. So now Brian is experiencing that. Some people tried to tell me, we don't carry the sins of our fathers and we shouldn't be guilty. We don't have guilt associated with the sins of our fathers. And that's not true. The scripture says the sins of fathers visit the children to the third and fourth generation. And most times we don't even know that they're visiting us because no one's actually shared with us what those sins were. And so we take them on as our own, not realizing that our parents more than likely went through many of the same things that we're going through on our journey now. Brian, I love the fact that you were fighting pro se and all, because it's necessary for your son or your daughter to know. I don't think it said either one, but to know that at the end of the day, when they circle back, if they don't get to circle back now, that you fought for them. And hearing a one-sided story, I need dads not to be offended when their children show up angry. I need you to sympathize and empathize with your children and have compassion for them, because you have no idea the journey they've been through. You're only aware of your own journey. And so when I'm telling you about the adults that I encounter, they become successful almost to rub it in your face, and then think that their success doesn't mean that they're brokenhearted about your absence. And it's a complete and total lie. Children who come from a situation where they have been alienated from their father, or their father has walked out, I'm telling you, they're walking around as adults, brokenhearted, and they're stuck in what is called arrested development. Arrested development means that you are in that space, stuck in that age, that developmental state, the day your daddy left. And so some of you are like, but I've never met my dad. So you need to be very concerned, because I know we want to throw the surrogate out there. I saw that on somebody's page this week. Oh, children need their father or a father figure. A father figure can only do so much. A father figure cannot show you who you are character-wise. I know people who have morphed into someone else's character, but it wasn't their own. I know individuals who've literally taken on the identity of another person, but it wasn't a part of their DNA. That's the piece that is super duper important. Because when you go to the doctor doesn't ask you about your father figure's DNA or medical history. It asks you about your father's medical history, your biological DNA father's medical history. Some of you, let's just go here. You need to reunite with your father just for the simple fact of knowing your DNA, knowing your medical history, not just for the doctor, but for yourself to walk through this journey in order to be everything that you're called to be. Everything. And if you've heard me speak before, you know that's a thing for me. Because I don't think it's fair for you to be walking around on earth and you're only a part of who you're supposed to be. I think it's detrimental, and I think it's damaging not only to you, but to the rest of the world who needs all of you to show up. So let's go here. Charles says, I noticed that many people who say that they don't need help need the most help. This isn't even specific to fatherlessness. Pride makes our life so much more difficult. Oh, come on. You better preach, Charles. When I tell you, that's across the board. That's across the board. Help my marriage coaching group, they say, we all need some help. That's their hashtag. We all need some help. So shout out to Glenn as I'm having this Facebook Live conversation. We all need some help. And pride should not be the thing that gets in the way and keeping us from the help that we need. So whether your father has left or whether he was forced out, I'm going to say this again for those who are just coming on. The child doesn't know that, Dad. And children, I want to flip this here in just a moment. I need you to understand how badly your father needs you to be in his life. I've seen it on their faces. I've heard it come from their mouths. When you think that he is not thinking about you, you are the very thing that's on his mind all the time. And that includes the one who left. Because sometimes we're young and we make stupid decisions. But that doesn't mean that we can't rectify it. That doesn't mean there's no place for redemption. And if you are the child who's an adult who is not giving your father the space to be reconciled with you and to be redeemed in that sense, then now you're wrong. Now you have flipped the scenario and now you're wrong. I realize, and I've come to discover, that every fatherless child has the opportunity to fall into the negative traps. And that's one of them. The negative trap of flipping it on our dads and saying, well, you weren't there, you were never around, so therefore I'm not giving you an opportunity now. The opportunity isn't just for him, it's for you as well. So when a dad leaves, because it happens, as much as I know some of you are like, that never happens, and there's the myth of the deadbeat dad, and I know that's real, because I learned that before I even read the book by Warren Farrell. Before I even knew it was a thing, I used to walk around saying it to my husband. There is a place where we have to understand that, how do I put this? I'll say it this way. There's a place where we have to understand that fatherlessness is a mental health issue and it creates one. So as you are going through your fatherless journey, perceived abandonment issues, rejection, behavioral disorders, all these different things are going to cycle and come up in your life simply because you're fatherless and you're going through this journey, right? And you're falling into these traps that you think are, well, I don't need him. I've made it this far. But have you? What does making it this far look like? I didn't realize what I needed from my dad until I had him. And so now one of the things I say all the time is, you don't know what you need until you know what you need. You don't know what you're missing until you know what you're missing. And I didn't know what I was missing until I had my dad in my life. Dads are not going to show up perfect. Get rid of the illusion of the super dad in your mind. Because in some ways, I think that's what the father figure kind of paints. And the mentor paints. They show up and they become super dad, right? Or even the weekend dad. Oh, he plays put it in a bag every time he sees his child. And I jokingly call it that. Because remember the song? It was a hip hop song. I'm a bit of a hip hop head. And so it's just put it in the bag. And so there was some cuss words in the explicit version, but in the radio version, there wasn't. Go to the mall. Girl just wants you to go shopping. And she just wants you to say, just put it in the bag. You just drop everything, anything they want, just drop it in the bag. That's what you do. You just put it in the bag. And then they grow up and they have questions about what a man's supposed to be like. And when a man doesn't play put it in the bag, they get upset. You're creating a false narrative and an illusion for a child that is not helping them well into their adult lives. So let's see what Becca has to say here. This is another long one. Becca said, my mother kept my father away. I grew up hating him. She hated him. So I had to also. Oh my God. Responsible once again for our parents' emotions. I finally met him when I was 18 and I was angry. It didn't go well. I did hear his side. I realized that everything my mother told me was a lie. My world shattered. My hate shifted to my mother. I no longer have any contact with her. She's toxic. I no longer hate her, but I can't be healthy with her in my life. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to form a bond with my father. I haven't heard from him in over 15 years, many, many years of therapy later. I'm on the road to recovery. Woo! Becca, this is a lot, but this is exactly why I'm having this conversation tonight. Because every fatherless child needs to understand that until they have the other side of the story, they are not fine. They are not okay. And they are not better off without their dads. Becca, I want to pick this apart just a little bit to kind of break down and use some teachable moments. So early before I believe you got on, one of the things I talked about was us being responsible for our parents, our custodial parents' emotions. And you said it there. She hated him, so I hated him. So what should we do? How else are we supposed to operate? She hated him, so I hated him. A lot of times when she hates him, we don't say a word. We don't ask any questions about where he is, what's he doing. I want to see him. None of that. Then she said, I was 18. I was angry. It didn't go well. Anger never goes well when you show up and you meet a father who's been absent for a long time, whether once again, he left or he was forced out. It's not going to go well because he's angry just like you're angry. And that is not like you got, like that's what you're going to experience. For me, and this was before I even started the Fatherless Generation Foundation, before it was even a thought. I had to make the decision to go in with no expectations. And I really thought I was going to say some things that I didn't even, I never said. I never said what I thought I was going to say. Because I thought I was going to say something like probably what Becca said. Where the hell you been? Like, what's going on? Did you not think I was yours? Like all of that. And mine was, all of the words that I thought I was going to say initially were just kind of drowned out by the fact that I walked through the door, he hugged me and said, I love you. And there was nothing else I could say. So here we have Becca saying, I realized everything my mother told me was a lie. Moms, if you are alienating the child, if the father was forced out, your children will eventually find out. And you will then become the target for their hatred. The hatred that you developed in them, the hatred that you taught them to have. You will then become the target for that. And so just like with Becca, she said it shifted towards her mother because she found out her mother lied to her. the mother that she protected, the mother that she sided with, the mother that she fought side by side with for 18 years at least. And she could no longer hate her father. And now she no longer hates her mother as well, but she realizes that her mother is not healthy with her in her life. Becca, unfortunately, for the both of us, we have that same journey. Right now, it's been about a year since I've spoken to my mother because of her hurt surrounding the work that I do. And then it becomes a tongue lashing. You guys have never heard me say anything derogatory about my mother on here. However, for her, because she didn't heal from whatever it was that she had going on, it triggers something in her. And until she gets the help she needs, I can't do that. It's not healthy for me. It's not that I don't want to have a relationship with my mother, because I do. But I also recognize boundaries, and I recognize, like Becca here, that it's just not the best for the journey, the part of the journey that I'm on. Love her, honor her, treat her. She's my mother. So anything she needs, I'm going to be there. When it comes to this situation where Becca has not formed a bond with her father and never formed the bond, and it's been 15 years, and I know you're on to therapy, I would suggest to you, Becca, to reach out so that there's some way that maybe, just maybe, we can circle back in the right way to get you reconnected with your father, and then teach you both how to create that bond at this stage in your life, if that's something you want. I watch a lot of ratchet TV. I'm gonna admit it. And I watch it because there's so many fatherless children on there. It's almost like I'm a kid in a candy store, right? And it's so bad. I watched Real Housewives of Potomac. One of the girls is going to do an event with me. I won't say which one, but I have it in the pocket. And so I'm working on the dates and all of those things. But another one of the girls who I didn't even remember her story of growing up fatherless, I recognized she was doing something and it was wrong. And it was not going to go well, Beck. It was going to go probably very much so like your situation. She decided that she was just going to roll up on her father unannounced. She's 30-something years old. She's just going to roll up on him. She brought his sister and brother-in-law with her. Didn't call, nothing. She had reached out previously through a letter, no response. She'd reached out via Facebook a couple of times and he had blocked her. Would you have rolled up to his house? Would you have gone, like flew into town, drove a rental car to his house, knocked on his door? When the door opened, his sister said, hi. He said, hi. And she said, this is your daughter. And he made a couple faces, they said, like, and closed the door and locked it and never came back. Just going to be honest with you. That is not how you do that. Just because you roll up, did you think he was going to be like, oh, hi, I love you. I've been waiting for this moment. See, Becca goes, oh, wait. Becca said, oh, hell no. Exactly. That's just not the way you do that. And I'm not saying he's right for his response, but as I watched it, I was like, this isn't going to go well. And if it does, I was going to be surprised. I need for the producers of these shows to call me first before y'all keep having people be dropped off and reunited without any type of strategy, without any type of plan beforehand. Call me. I will help you. And so she rolled up and he locked the door. But the thing was, she got her closure, is what she felt. She got all the answers that she needed. I can't say that would be enough for me. Sometimes that ain't enough. I'm sorry. I need one more shot at this. I need to figure this out one more again. And that was a father from her mom's perspective and from the sister's perspective. He left. I guess he gave all indications that he wanted to have a child. But then when it came to them having a child, they ended up getting divorced. Something went down. They got a divorce and he hadn't seen his daughter since then. That's their journey. Some of our journeys tend to meld together and they get, they're unique, but then they have so many similarities. It's almost crazy. There's always one or two things that make them super unique. But I want to be honest in this this conversation as to how the fatherless child feels, because they are fatherless, when a father didn't leave but was forced out. They're going to feel like Becca felt. It's almost like she was supposed to be on here tonight, and I'm so grateful that she chimed in. When a father did not leave and was forced out, and the child finds out, because it's just a matter of time, mom, or non-custodial parent or custodial parent, it's a matter of time before the child finds out. And then you will become the target of the hate that you taught them to have. How damaging is that? And then you will not be able to have the relationship that you fought so hard to protect and to keep somebody from. It's the thing that you feared the most happened to you, right? It's the thing that you feared the most. And when a child is reunited with their father, and I think the children giving love and accolades and approval ratings and all that to the dad, this is another thing I say. Loving my father doesn't mean I love my mother any less. And loving my mother doesn't mean I love my father any less. But because two parents are in competition with one another, because the two parents have no idea how to share, and more than likely they have their own fatherless journey and childhood trauma that they're dealing with or that they've never dealt with. Now we're in the equation, and now we have to deal with the brokenness that our parents, our mother and father showed up to the table with. I want to tell you that fatherless children who then grow up to be fatherless adults, you attract the same friends and mates who have the same heart issues that you do and need the same level of healing as you do. You tend to manage your life in similar fashions and move around in similar ways. And guess what? That's why you friends. And I'm saying that real in Ebonic style. That's why you friends. That's why y'all kicking it. Because y'all have similarities. Y'all roll in the same pack. My mother used to say, birds of a feather flock together. I ain't never liked that saying. I never liked it. And maybe I didn't like it, not because I had bad friends, but because I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want it to be true. Let's go here, since it's put up here, because it caught me off guard. Meeting him, asking him for his side of the story, and finally knowing who I looked like. Oh, come on, Becca. I don't even have to look at no notes. Becca's just lobbing them to me. What was what I needed. Becca needed her identity. She needed to know the truth. She needed to know her identity, because it was important that the truth be seen, number one, because that would tell her what kind of DNA she had. And then the identity piece incorporates identity, character, development. What I look like on the outside as well as the inside is what identity is. And Becca got all of that from meeting him. I'm still going to say, just because of who I am, there's no way he doesn't want to know and spend time with you. He's probably, and this is the crazy part, fatherless children and absent fathers have the same experience of heartbroken, just being heartbroken. And they want to know each other, but fear and pride. And Becca went a certain way the first time, so why wouldn't it go that way the second time? Keeps you guys from coming together again. I don't want to go through any therapy that you've actually interacted with or taken, but I've just seen it one too many times, where if you're thinking about him, he's more than likely thinking about you. Let me see here. I want to go to Brian here. Well, thank you, Brian. He said, you're so wonderful. And it's my oldest I have to fight for, 12 years fighting. I do have my other 3 all the time and never have to fight for. I'm cursed and blessed beyond measure. Well, I don't want you to be cursed and blessed anymore, but I get the yin and the yang that you talked about. My grandmother used to call it, you take the good with the bad, baby. And in saying that, we have to realize that life comes with challenges. When good shows up, typically bad shows up as well. But the counterpart and the beautiful part about that, the other flip side of that is when bad shows up, good shows up as well. And so we just have to be aware of that, and we have to understand how those things show up. Briefly, because I'm probably going to have to do this in a separate one, and I didn't think about it at the time. Daddy, where are you? Daddy, where you are is just as broken as your children, right? And I want you to deal with this that I'm going to say to you tonight. In order for fathers who have been alienated from their children to be reunified with them, one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to heal your own broken heart. You're going to have to deal with your PTSD and your mental health issues that have now ensued because of this trauma that's just been placed in your lap. A father's broken heart is another reason fathers are not playing the active role that they want to play in their children's lives. For me, it's not an excuse, it's a real reason. And so when we look at children who are alienated, when we look at children who are fighting, or not children, dads who are fighting to be a part of their children's lives, and everybody's being taken for, this trip that someone who's pissed off at the other person for no reason, or for a reason that maybe they feel is valid. But once again, the punishment does not fit the crime. Dads then fall into this place where their hearts get broken. And maybe their hearts were broken from before that, from their own fatherless journey. And so now all this does is validate that relationships are no good. That people are always going to break your heart. I can tell you right now that your father's absence should not be antiquated to simply mean that he doesn't care or that he doesn't feel anything surrounding his absence. That's just false. And when I'm looking at the equations of whether you left or whether you were forced out, some of you are repeating the cycle. And you're repeating the cycle that was done to your father. And so you're Becca and you're Brian, right? And so you had very little time with your dad. And now you are a parent because now you're doing what adults do. You're in a relationship. But the relationship can't go to where you would like it to go because you lack the developmental skills that you need in order to have a successful relationship. Number one, you never seen it modeled. And number two, you have abandonment issues. You have perceived abandonment issues. You got trust issues. You have issues that keep you from being able to truly connect with someone beyond the surface. One of the things that I can truly recognize from a surface level about fatherless children is they are hypersexual, but rarely intimate. They know what sex is, but they don't know what intimacy is. And when they do get an opportunity to be intimate with someone, they run for their lives because they don't want someone to see all that's on the inside of them. I need you to know that if the person is that aware, the person in your life, and you've gotten intimate with them, trust me, they've already seen it, but they've decided to stay. Because maybe, just maybe, they're the ones who can help walk you through the trauma that you experienced as a child and that has now basically followed you into your adult life and now is trying to penetrate and, as we said earlier, visit your children so that your children have the same experience you had. Have a husband who fought dearly to be in a relationship with his daughter, continuously fought, not necessarily through court the way some of you have, but made sure with everything in him, he was an active parent no matter how far away they lived. That's an endearing quality. That's a quality that I think most women will respect. And if a woman doesn't respect it, gentlemen, then she's not the woman for you. She's not the woman for you. I want you guys to realize as dads, when your children are asking, where are you? And you want to say, well, I've been here. Once again, they don't know whether or not you left or were forced out. And so you have to redefine what showing up as a parent looks like. You have to redefine what showing up as manhood and fatherhood looks like. Because there's a narrative that your children have that now you have to break through. And I don't want you to be too prideful to break through it. I want you to understand that they need you to break through it, because probably, more than likely, many people haven't fought to break through it. Don't go about your life suppressing the pain that you feel. Even in the situation with Becca, I'm going to say this. If Becca's dad ever sees this, Becca needs you, right? If there's individuals on here who are chiming in and you want me to pray for you, Monday mornings at 7, this Monday, I will start praying every Monday at 7 a.m., where I will pray for whatever it is you're asking me to pray for concerning your fatherless journey. So just DM the Fatherless Generation Foundation and we'll put it on the prayer request, and I will pray for it live on the Facebook Live. But I need for fathers to understand that it's never too late. Just like I told the fatherless children, don't be so prideful that you shut the door to your father. Because what you don't realize is people have real fear, guilt, and shame. And that fear, guilt, and shame has kept them from connecting with you and being a part of your day-to-day life. And if you just give them a moment, if you just give them your heart long enough for them to recognize that it's doable, there's an opportunity, there's a door open, I think you'll get a different response. Not meeting someone by rolling up on them like the young lady did, by coming at them with all of your anger and aggression. It's not going to get the answer or the outcome that you're looking for. And when dads have been forced out, they have real emotions about the journey that they've been on. So if your dad shows up and he's angry and he's frustrated and he feels, and he's going to have fear, guilt, and shame associated with that. Because maybe he felt like he should have fought harder. Maybe he felt like he shouldn't have gone away, but his money ran out and he didn't know what to do, right? Because eventually money runs out for a lot of dads. Eventually, they don't have any more money to fight in court. They don't have any more money to fight every allegation, every false allegation that's thrown at the courts. So they get weary. They get weary. And I know men are supposed to be, and our dads are superheroes. They should never get tired. I hear it all the time. You should never give up. Under no circumstances should a father give up. And I'm like, there's plenty of circumstances when a dad can give up and should. When he is not able to cope in life and live his life, he needs to back it up just a little bit. He needs to hold off just for a second. You know how many cases I have to find a mom? I had a conversation today where the mom's sister called the dad after finding out he was trying to serve her and said, oh, she moved to Hawaii. Well, for the last 6 months, we've been looking for this Hawaiian address. There's no Hawaiian address. She's still in the States. They sent him on a wild goose chase. I never believed she moved to Hawaii. I never believed in the story, but he did. So we went the route in order to help him kind of do his due diligence, but do his due diligence for the court's sake. She sent him on a wild goose chase. This dad could give up. He had a hearing, 9 months ago? Now we've been looking for another 6, right? That's a long time. But you can't give up, because I know some dads who've been fighting 12 years or so, right? Who've been fighting for 18 years, who haven't seen their children in 30 years. You can never give up, because when a dad didn't leave and was forced out, fatherless child, I need you to know he has the same emotions that you have. He has the same pain that you have. And then when you guys meet without recognizing that perspective, it doesn't go so well, because you both want to be heard You both want to have your say in the conversation. And I can tell you, I am guilty of that kind of thing in my personal life, in my day-to-day life, making sure that what I need to be said or what I'm saying is being heard. It's challenging to even think about that right now. Even as I'm saying this, I'm like, maybe I still got some daddy issues that's trickling over that I have to be conscious of. But when dads don't leave and they're forced out, I'm going to say it again. The bottom line here is they feel the same emotions and they have the same pain as their fatherless children. So I need you guys basically to give each other a break when you're reunifying with them. That's what I need you to do. I want to see if you guys have any more comments or questions on here. Becca, I thank you for chiming in because Becca summed it up for me. So if any of you are watching the replay, I want you to come in and hit replay. But I also want you to realize that Becca's scenario is exactly what's going to happen, Mom, if you do not allow this child to come into, or allow the father to come into the child's life. You have to understand that. Thank you, Jason. Jason said this is such a great talk and so on point. Thank you. I didn't want to be super technical and I didn't want to be super I wanted to bring the heart to the table like I always do. Because I can be on here and I can give you all the facts and all that. And I just didn't want to go there. I wanted to go there as much as necessary and to give you some points that you could look at and deal with, especially the fear factor that so many of us have, that we don't want to ask the questions. We don't want to say, where's my dad? Because we're afraid to ask our mothers. And if we ask our mothers, then what? Then what if she doesn't answer? And if she does answer, how am I supposed to deal with that? So then you become, number one, you got the fear factor. Number two, then you start feeling emotional. You still feel responsible, for your mother's emotions. And so you got to deal with all of that stuff before you even get to your dad. Most people aren't even crossing that hump. Fear and being responsible for your mother's emotions. You're not going to even cross the hump of getting to know where your dad is and getting to know who he is. So I want to make sure that those things are stated, but also the hearts of the matter are the comments here. The heart of the matter is understanding that there's enough of us going through this. Like Becca said, please pray that I'm able to continue to go to that dark place deep within my heart. I want to be able to trust. I want to be able to be vulnerable. I want to heal all the pain from my traumatic, abusive childhood. Going to that place is scary as hell. I'm going to let Becca teach next time. I'm going to let Becca teach next time because we cannot, as fatherless children, be vulnerable. Vulnerability is into that intimacy place. The only time you can be vulnerable is when you recognize, hold on, let me take that down. When you recognize where you come from and who you are and how it's played a part, and you've reconciled all of those moments. And Becca, that's why I'm still being pulled into that direction concerning your relationship with your father, because it's not all reconciled yet. And once it's reconciled, I can tell you, I know what that's like. My father left and was forced out. It's kind of a combo deal. I don't hold either one of my parents responsible for the journey. It is what it is. I was conceived from an adulterous affair. And from that happening, my mother didn't want it to be my dad. She didn't want my father to be the dad. And I get why. I'm an adult woman. I understand why you don't want a married man to be the father of your children or your child. I'm the only one from that situation. So I get it. And I can understand as an adult how you can get yourself in a situation that you're just looking back going, how am I going to clean this up? And sometimes the cleanup is messier than the initial contact or the conception of the issue. The cleanup has been messy. It's been truly messy. But for you, Becca, I want you to have that moment that I had. And I had 2.5 years with my dad before he passed on. I think some people thought maybe he was still alive. My father passed, I was 31 when I reunited with him. And I was 33 going on 34 by the time he died. But the time that I had with him was, the time I had with him was priceless, as you can see. Let me see right here what Jason says. I'm in the middle of a move, and this stopped me in my tracks just to listen and say amen. Thank you for this. All right, Jason, I appreciate that. And amen. Yes. I think we need to, okay, let me see, wait, before I even go there. Jason says, it's unfortunate that children are used as pawns and weapons when it comes to breakups. That's the messy reality to too many cases. Used as pawns in the midst of breakups, children are also used as scapegoats as to how to break up, basically, or whatever that can look like, because I've seen that as well, which is interesting. Oh, he's not a good father. I was yelling at the TV yesterday. My husband can tell you, I was yelling at the TV yesterday. Oh, he's not a good father. Oh, I don't know if I trust him with the kids. Well, maybe, girlfriend, you should have asked a few more questions before laying in bed with him and then creating the scenario that you're in, because you can't use that now, as far as I'm concerned. You just can't. You can't use, I don't know if I trust him. You should have asked his parenting style before you got in the bed with him. And too often we're not asking these questions. We're not asking enough questions. And so then we're stuck with a situation that we're unclear of. Then we're stuck with a situation where we're like, well, I don't know. Or she is this and that. And I can't believe she let my little girl sit on a man's lap. That was a conversation today. Okay, well, you just show your 4-year-old daughter a different way. 4-year-olds don't know. They're not supposed to sit on their dad's or their uncle's laps. I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean anything negative to a 4-year-old? If it's her uncle? Why? If uncle isn't trustworthy, then why is he around? All these different things that people try to throw into the equation as to why the other parent is unfit is almost like just straight ludicrous. It's ludicrous. Becca even said used as ATMs. Yeah. I watched a video the other day about child support, and I think I'll post the video. I'll have to bring somebody else on here to talk about that, because there are so many facets to Title IV that I personally wouldn't even delve into, because that's not where my expertise is. That's why this is called Healing Tuesday, because I believe that I have a gift and a knack to help you get through the trauma of your fatherless journey. And as well as fathers, there's a part of your journey, once again, that your fatherlessness is showing. And it shows up in your relationship with your children and your inability to be active dads based on whether you left or whether you were forced out. I'm going to keep saying that. Jason said, that's ridiculous not to be able to sit on your dad's lap. That's all I got to say to that, Jason. It was a bit much. And it's every time you pick up the phone, there's going to be a question of, well, what if he or she did this, this, and this? Does that make them a bad parent? No. Courts don't see your emotion. They don't. That's a different parenting style. That's something, the person isn't a molester or sexual deviant or perpetrator. They're not on the registry. I don't think that's something that people are gonna have an issue with. If I saw like there was a picture the other day, a little girl and her father reenacted a baby picture. Some of you might have seen it. Maybe I should post it and see what you think. They reenacted a picture. She's 21. She's still a daddy's girl. And he was holding her like how a dad would hold his baby. And then he held her like that as a 21-year-old, but he's cupping her butt a certain way because she's 21. Some people saw it as sexual. And I'm like, those of you who see this as sexual because they reenacted this picture, Y'all got daddy issues. Period. Like point blank, period. And you don't know what it's like to be a daddy's girl. That's the stuff we live with in this world. We live with this craziness. Here we go. Millions of kids sit in Santa's lap every year. Exactly. And you pay Santa. You paid a little elf to go sit up there in Santa's lap and lie to you, tell you he's going to get you everything that you asked him for on your list. I don't know, y'all. We need to work on some of this stuff. And thank you, Charles. My spirit is so magnetic. It's not something I practice. I get nervous before I get on all of these just because I don't know what you guys are going to say, and I want to be able to answer your questions, and I want to be able to make sure that I'm here to help you as much as possible. It is now 10:13. I need to get off here. I have had a long day, and I just wanted to come on and talk about this just to see some of you are laughing like Santa. Yeah, it's cookie. But I wanted to come on here and talk to you about, when dad didn't leave, but he was forced out. The one thing I want you to walk away with is, for those of you who are on your fatherless journey, you haven't had that time to reconcile with your dads, as well as those of you who are in an alienated situation and you don't know what your children are thinking, and you have no idea that they don't know. You know that they know one side, but you don't know how they're feeling and all that. Let me give it to you right now. They feel the same way you feel. So if you take nothing else away from this particular live, know that dad feels the same way you feel, child, and fatherless child. And fatherless child, it's like, dad, you need to know your fatherless child is hurting without you just as much as you're hurting without them. So I'm going to end this tonight and say I'm Dr. Torri J. Evans Barton. I'm the founder and CEO of the Fatherless Generation Foundation. And I'm happy to come on here to help you heal as much as possible. I'm on here every Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. You can inbox me some of the questions you have, some of the topics you'd like me to cover, and I will cover them. And if I am not the expert in that, I will more than likely do my best to bring somebody on. But this is Healing Tuesdays, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m., unless it's a holiday. We'll figure that out. But I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for engaging with me. And hopefully I'll see you next Tuesday. All right. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.